This year, selling on Amazon is going to be better than ever, with more buyers buying on the platform than ever before. And I'll be honest, I was wrong about the competition, the likes of Facebook, Google, Shopify, and TikTok. I thought they were all just around the corner, ready to take market share. But the reality is that none of them come even close to the service that Amazon provides to their customers. So in today's video, I want to go into detail of how you can take advantage of this amazing opportunity and start selling on Amazon as quickly as possible. So when it comes to selling on Amazon, the very first few things that you have to do is something called the setups. And there are 4 key setups: the business and the business bank account. Once that's done, then you have to set up your Amazon seller account. Then you will have to do Helium 10, and last but not least, Alibaba. This is where we will find our products from our Chinese suppliers. So let's go through it straight away. The very first thing you'll have to do is go on something called Awesome. Now, Awesome are UK-based e-commerce accountants who are by far the best in the market when it comes to helping you start up your very first business. Now, with my link, you will actually get a discount, so make sure to check the link in the description. But let me just go through with you exactly how easy and quickly it is to set up your business and your business bank account all in one place. So when you click on the link in the bio, or just Google if you don't want to have the referral link, go on to Get Started, and then it will ask you the question as to what type of business are you planning to start. Now, they do other stuff as well. However, if you're going to go into e-commerce, selling on Amazon, eBay, Shopify, or whatever, then it will most likely be e-commerce or retail. Then the rules for UK-based companies are linked to their director's residency status. So now you will actually have to answer whether or not you are based in the UK or outside of the UK. So a lot of my students on the mentorship are actually based outside of the UK. Maybe they're based in the likes of Netherlands, Sweden, Finland, Germany, or whatever. So they will have to click on this option. However, if you are based in the UK and you want to sell in the UK marketplace, you will just click onto here. Then you will have to ask, or basically answer, whether or not you want Awesome, the accountants, to review your application. Now, I'll be honest with you, starting out your business is actually pretty straightforward. There doesn't need to be too much verification or checks in places and balances. So in my personal opinion, you may just want to go no, proceed with the checks, because we want to keep our costs as low as possible. This is what I'll be talking about throughout this whole video, is how to keep your costs as low as possible and how to maximize your profit as much as you possibly can, because at the end of the day, that's what business is all about. Then what registered address will you use for your business? Now, this, guys, is super important, and I have to explain this to you in detail. When you register your business, okay, you have 2 choices. You can either put your home address or your office address or whatever, and basically have it looked at the register for the next 20 years. So for example, if you are renting right now, or you're living in a house where you don't want your address to be shown, you may want to use somebody else's address, or like a virtual address, for a fee. So you basically have some anonymity of to where you're actually based. So in this situation here, you can either use, yes, I will use Awesome address for £100 a year, which I actually think is a pretty good deal, or you can use your own address if you don't care whether or not people outside of the company can see where you're based. In my personal opinion, most people should go for the Awesome address because it just gives you a little bit more privacy, to be completely honest. And then last but not least, how will you handle taxes, finances, and compliance? So a lot of my students in the very beginning, before they start selling, before they start thinking about it, all of a sudden go into, how am I going to deal with taxes? When does the VAT come in? How am I going to do my bookkeeping? I don't want to get into trouble with the HMRC, whatever tax authority I'm going to be under. This is where this will come in. And in my personal opinion, this is where with my link, you'll actually get a discount. I would just straight away go for the £39 plus VAT per month for the first 3 months to use an accountant straight away. This way, everything gets sorted from day one, and you do not have to worry about taxes, VAT, any sort of certificates. Anything that comes from HMRC gets dealt with the accountant directly. So what you can focus is what really important, and that is buying low and selling high. This is what I want all of my students to start focusing on from the very beginning. It is the key. It is what's going to make or break your business. All the rest of the stuff with the bookkeeping, the taxes, the finances, the legal, leave that in place for somebody else to do it, because you're not an expert and therefore mistakes can be made, which is why I always recommend to use Awesome Accountant, £39 per month. Then what you will do is you will continue to the payment, and it will take you on to the next steps that you will have to do in order to get your bank account set up, your business bank accounts, your business, and all of this stuff here right now will be given to you straight away in terms of company formation, incorporation certificates, and so on and so forth. Now, whatever you get here, sent to your email and in the post, make sure to keep safe, because it will come in handy very, very soon after when you're doing your setups. But also if there is any other issues, or you have to prove the existence of your company or whatever, that is the sort of paperwork that you want to keep included somewhere at all times. Okay, so that is the very first thing. So once the business and the business bank account is set up through Awesome, the very next thing you need to do is set up your Amazon professional sellers account, okay? And this is right here, okay? So pricing, grow your business cost effectively. Now, when it comes to selling on Amazon, there are two types of ways you can set up your account. You can either go for the individual one or you can go for the professional one. If you're going to start selling on Amazon professionally, you want to leave your 9 to 5, you want to do this as a full-time business, or you want to even do this as a side hustle that will make anything above, let's say $500 a month and plus, then you want to go for the professional account because it provides you with so much more data, so much more functions and so on, okay? Don't think that, hey, if I'll go for the individual one, which is the cheaper one, I can just upgrade later down the line. You might as well go for the professional one straight away. And let me show you how exactly it works, okay? So we'll go on to how it gets started. Here you'll have, let's have a look. There you go, selling plans. So you have individual, okay, which is completely free of charge, but you have to pay an additional 75 pence every single time you sell an item, or you pay £25 per month with additional selling fees, okay? Now, in the individual one, if you're going to sell fewer than 35 items per month, you want to go for that one. However, if we're going to do this seriously, we are much more likely to sell more than 35 units. I, for example, sell about 6,000 units each and every single month, so this would be impossible for me to do, okay? So on the professional one, you will be able to advertise what your products are. You'll be qualified for the top placement and product detail pages. This is super, super important because if you don't qualify where most sales are being made, which is on the page 1, then you have no reason for you actually to even start selling because 80% of all sales will always happen on page 1. Then you want to use the selling tools like API and reports as well, something that is not available on the individual plan. And you also want to sell products in restricted categories. So categories such as creams, baby products, medicine, and so on and so forth. Some of those you wouldn't actually even be allowed to attempt to sell on the individual plan, whereas on the professional plan, you can provide documentation, you can actually start selling. And you may be asking yourself, well, why on earth would I go to the restricted products? Just be aware that it's actually a very, very good place to go to because of all of this additional paperwork that's needed. It makes the actual category a lot less competitive and there is a lot more money to be made because a lot of new sellers will just shy away from those restricted categories. This is something that I tell my students, hey, in the very beginning, maybe you want to shy from it too, but don't think about it long term. Long term, you actually may want to lean into those restricted categories because that's where a lot of money is being made with much less competition. Remember, guys, every single time there is a hoop for you to jump over in order to continue carrying on with your business, product, or whatever, that means there are certain amounts of people that will be filtered out because they decided not to jump through that hoop. So ironically, the more hoops you have to jump over, the better it is in the long term, okay? Now, as you can see here, more selling plan features and so on. And as you can see, it is a very, very clear cut that you should be signing up for a professional. If you're going to do this as a business, you're going to have to go as a professional. Then here you'll see referral fee structure as well. And as you can see, per item minimum referral fee, this is the one you actually really have to worry about. And as you can see, these are the fees for every single time you sell a product. This is the fees that you're going to be taking. And as you can see, they're a little bit different in different categories, but it is a percentage of your total price. So if I was to sell something in home and kitchen, which is a product that I do sell, it will be 15.3% fee, okay? As we come down, for example, to tires, 7.4%, watches, 5.1%, and so on. But for the most part, most products you can just cost 15% for the referral fee. That's a good estimate overall, okay? And the referral fee is very, very simple. It's basically for Amazon giving you permission to sell on their platform. That is it. That is what that fee is for. However, there is also another fee, such as the fulfillment fees. Okay, now fulfillment fees basically means how much Amazon will charge to actually pick your product, collect it, package it up, and then send it to your customer. And this is something that is super important. Now, if you have your own warehouse, your own fulfillment network, then you can bypass this fee. However, if you want to scale up this business to 6, 7, 8 figures, I've now got up to 7 figures a year, then you will have to use fulfillment by Amazon, and therefore you will have to pay these referral fees because they are very, very important in order to scale up your business, as opposed to you focusing on the operations, day-to-day activities every single day and having no time to actually scale up. Okay. Then after that, we'll have the likes of storage fees as well, which you can look through in more detail, and so on. And here you just get a few examples as well as to how much it would cost for you to actually fulfill something in your marketplace. So say, for example, you are going to be selling an SD card or something like that, which is a 30 gram, very, very small product. It will cost you £1.71 to actually fulfill that item. If it was a toaster, it would actually cost you £5.30, which is why I always tell my students in the very beginning, go for cheaper, lighter, smaller products, because these fees are much smaller and therefore your risks are also much smaller. You're much better off having 500 SD cards that are not selling, and therefore it's a much lower fee than 500 toasters, which is going to cost you a lot in terms of storage fees. And then you have quite a few other fees as well. Now, I know that what I've just gone through a lot is fees. And what you may be hearing is like, hey, all of these fees, am I even going to be able to make any of this profit? Or is it even possible? It is, guys, because these fees apply to every single seller on Amazon. So when one of these fees increase by one reason or another with inflation or whatever, then all of us are in the same boat, essentially. All of us will have to increase our selling prices. So don't get put off by these fees. It is just the nature of the business. Every single platform out there, whether it's Shopify or TikTok or whatever, will have some form of these sorts of fees included as well. Some lower, some higher. But when it comes to selling online, I think Amazon FBA is the way to go. Now, once that's done, now we've got the business bank account, and Amazon professional seller account set up. And on the seller account, it's very, very straightforward as well. It's just putting in your details, providing your passport address and your actual address, your business details, and then you may have a quick verification interview. It does not take long for you to set up the Amazon professional seller account. They want you to sell, so they want you to pass and go ahead with it, okay? Once that is done, the next thing you need to do is something called Helium 10. Now, Helium 10 is by far the best product research tool out there. You cannot go without it. You can't just go willy-nilly saying, hey, I'm going to start selling these phone cases, or I'm going to start selling these, curlers or water bottles or yoga mats or whatever without doing any research whatsoever. If that is the way you want to go, you are destined to lose a lot of money. So product research tools such as Helium 10 is essential for you to make educated decisions as to what product you should be going for, because you will be spending quite a lot of money on your initial inventory. So you want to make sure that you're making an educated decision. And here are the 3 types of plans that you can go for. In my personal opinion, you either go in the very beginning with the starter plan, or if your budget is a little bit higher, just straight away go for the platinum plan. Now, usually the platinum plan is $99 a month. However, with a coupon code of FBA Mentor 20, you will actually get 20% off for the first 6 months. If you're low on budget, then go for the starter plan. And once you feel like you have used up all of the tools that it's giving you and you have to upgrade, then you can upgrade, okay? So it's completely up to you which one you want to go for. However, if you have a budget of over £1,000, £2,000, I would strongly advise to just go for this plan. And here's a little sneaky tip for you. If you just bought one product and you know you're not going to use this product research tool for the next month or so, just cancel the subscription and then resubscribe later down the line, so you bypass that fee coming out of your account every single month. So now that we've spoken about Helium 10, which we'll cover in a lot more detail very, very soon on how to use it effectively, the last but not least is, of course, Alibaba. Now, for those of you that don't know, Alibaba is kind of like Amazon, but in China, and it is mostly used for manufacturers and wholesalers to promote all of their products to people all across the world. People in America, UK, Europe, Africa, Asia, they will all go to Alibaba.com to buy products. And the reason why is because just like Amazon provides with guarantees and assurances, so does Alibaba as well. So instead of you directly paying to your supplier in China and keeping your fingers crossed and hoping for the best, with Alibaba, you will pay additional small extra fee, which I believe is 2.4%. And if anything ever goes wrong, your product goes missing or your product comes in damaged, you will actually be able to claim some of that money back. Now, with setting up the business and the business bank account, it does take a little while to do so. Amazon seller account as well, it might take a little while. With Alibaba, it is extremely straightforward. This is literally all you have to put in, agree and register, and then you are already able to start messaging suppliers, which again, we will go a little bit later on in this video, but it is very, very straightforward, very simple and very quick to do so. And this part is essentially what we covered. We covered the business, Amazon professional seller account, product research, and Alibaba. Now that that's out the way, we are now ready to start doing product research and buying our very first product. All right, so now we've come to product research, which is by far the most important part of this whole business model, guys. Everything else can go really well. You can do the best possible listing, you can do advertising, you can do absolutely everything. However, if you find the wrong product, if you haven't done enough research, then you will not be able to make money for one reason or another, whether it's the product is bad whether there's not enough revenue, and so on and so forth. And that is exactly what I want to cover in this portion of the video. What I want to do is break it into two parts. The first part is going to be the product analysis part, okay, where we'll go into finding exactly what kind of ideas, what kind of ways to find the, but just basically generate exactly initial ideas that we want to look into further. And then the second part is actually going to be the research/analysis part, is basically finding out whether those ideas that we just found are actually any good, is something that we should potentially pursue and look into further, or is it something for one reason or another not that good, okay? So let's first talk about the actual product idea generation, and there are many different ways to go about it, but I will show you the top 5 that I personally use. Now, the number one way that most people will tell you how to use, which I kind of have to cover, is essentially Amazon's bestsellers, okay? Now, for those of you that don't know and have never shopped on Amazon before, Amazon bestsellers is kind of what it says on the tin. These are the best-selling products in each and every single category or department, as Amazon put it, and every single day, okay? And what we can do is just to generate some ideas, we may potentially want to go into, let's say, I don't know, maybe let's go toys and games. And then we can actually see what kind of products are been best selling over the last 30 days. Now, what we are looking for here, and I will say this again and again and again, is a way to stand out from the rest of the competition. We are looking for small, light, cheap products that we can potentially source from Alibaba ourselves and sell on the platform as well. Now, there are a couple of things and a couple of caveats to it. So for example, here, the very first product we can see here is actually Uno cards. Uno is a very well-known brand. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of it yourself. And because of that, we can't just start selling our own Uno cards, because that will be a trademark infringement and we can get into a lot of trouble for it. So what we have to do is we'll have to look for unbranded products that we can kind of sell our own unique version of it, essentially, that we can stand out and be better from the rest of the competition. So let me give you an example. Uno, for example, here, like I said, not going to work out. We're going to have to put that up next. However, washable markers here, assorted colors of pack of 24 for £5. It's actually not a bad shout. That could potentially be an idea for us, because washable markers, it's not branded. You can put your own brand onto it. There are many different markers. There are many different types of markers and different ways you can potentially stand out from the rest of the competition. And the fact that these products are selling right now for £5, it actually may be quite a decent product for us to get into if it's small, light, cheap, simple, which of the face of it, it actually is. So what I would do is I would open up a Google document and I would actually put that idea, washable markers, for me to look into further potentially. But right now, I don't want to go into it just yet. I'm just generating ideas. So Pokemon, next one. Again, very well-known brand, probably not good for us. However, personalized happy birthday cake topper, again, something that's really cheap, $3.99, potentially may be a shout. Now, the reality is, if it's at $3.99 and all of these products are at $3.99, it might be a little bit too cheap, so there might not be that much profit to be made. If it's, for example, £3.99, after all the fees, after all the fulfillment fees and the advertising fees, you may be making like 50-60p profit per every single unit that you're selling, if you're lucky. Now, that might be okay in the very beginning, which is what I might say to my students, because you're learning, you're starting new, you want to keep your risk as low as possible. But these sorts of products may not necessarily be the best for you long term, because the profit margins may be decent, but the actual profit amount overall per unit sold is going to be on the lower side. So as we keep going, we can see all types of products. So for example, another washable markers, we can see 3D 6 blaster and so on. As you can see, there are many products here that may potentially be of use, okay? I will speak into detail as to what exactly I do in terms of the research part, but this is just the idea generation part, okay? And this is the first way, which is the best sellers, okay? And this updates, I believe, every day or so on and so forth. Now, the next way is actually going into movers and shakers. Movers and shakers is very similar to the best sellers, guys, because it essentially is exactly the same, but movers and shakers change very frequently. And as you can see here, our biggest gainers in sales rank over the last 24 hours updated frequently. So the products that you will see in toys and games here will be very different tomorrow, and they'll be different the next day and the next day and the next day. Matter of fact, I actually prefer looking at movers and shakers because there are new ideas all the time. Whereas if you go into the best sellers part, you will see the same products over and over and over again. And very soon you may be finding that, hey, you're just looking at exactly the same products. That's the problem number one. Number two is the fact that there are so many Amazon mentors out there, some of them who don't even sell on Amazon themselves. They will actually tell you to look at bestsellers. And because there are so many people looking at those products exactly the same and they're looking at exactly the same results, you may find yourself going into a niche that is very, very competitive, and it'll be really hard for you to stand out and actually make money. So going on to movers and shakers makes your job a little bit easier because these products continue to change each and every single day. And once again, cuddly soft toy owl may potentially be a shout. Legend of Zelka's ring sword, probably not because it's branded. And as you can see, there are many, many ideas for you to look into further that are cheap, light, simple, unbranded, not that competitive, and so on. Like I wouldn't, for example, go for Hot Wheels because clearly that is a very well-known brand that all of us, I'm sure, will know. Now, these two methods that I just shown you, I probably use 5-10% of the time because there are much better ways that I want to look into and use that are not being used by everybody else, okay? And the very first way that I want to show you is actually by going on to Helium 10, which is the tool that we spoke about earlier, and that is using their black box tool. Essentially, it's very, very simple. This is where you will put in the category that you want to potentially sell in. So for example, let's go for baby products, and I can put in the numbers, the category, whatever I want to do in this criteria, in this fields, and then it will pop out all of those products that actually match that criteria. So just to show you how it works, well, let's do it very quickly. Let's do review count, maximum of 100 reviews, okay? Because that means that if the review count is higher than 100, that those products have been around for quite some time. Whereas 100 is actually not that hard to get, so we'll keep it quite low. The weight I will put in as maximum of 2 pounds, because if it is heavy, that means they're going to be expensive, and they're going to be heavy and expensive, then you're taking on a little bit more risk than you want to when you're just starting out. So I'd put 2 pounds. And then what I would also put is the price. Here, I would put the price as maximum of 15 pounds because like I said, it's more expensive on Amazon, the more expensive on Alibaba. And unless you have a very, very large budget, 10K plus, I would tell you to always start off low, cheaper, smaller, lighter, and then work your way up. Once you have gained that experience, when it's not just me talking to you via video, where you actually experience the whole process from start to finish, then you can start leveling up and actually going for products that may be a little bit more expensive. And then last but not least, what I would also do is do the monthly revenue here, which is a minimum of £8,000. So these products have to be light, simple, cheap, and they also not have that many reviews, and they have to have a monthly revenue of at least £8,000, okay? And then when we click on search, it will now show me all of the products that should match that criteria, which we will double check. Now, just because it matches that criteria doesn't mean that every single one of these products is going to be perfect straight away. It doesn't. However, what it does, it helps us start actually narrowing down which ones would actually be quite good for you, okay? So, very first one here, dummy clips, personalized name for boys and girls, soother chain. Potentially, but as you can see, there are 3 different variations, and I tend to stay away from variations for various reasons, which we'll go into detail in a little bit further. But as you can see, the price is within the range that I asked. The revenue is above the £1,000 that I asked, and also it has the reviews as well. And as you can see here, best sales period as well. What month do they sell the best, which is also very, very useful. Okay, and as you can see here, all of these products here are actually going to be exactly matching the criteria that I wanted it to match. Like here's a good one. Quality waterproof potty training pads liner. Very, very simple, very cheap, very light product, making a decent amount of revenue at £3,000. And yeah, the review dating is 4, so maybe there are ways for us to potentially improve on, and it's something that we could potentially look into further. Another one that stands out to me, baby breastfeeding pillow. Simple, cheap. What could possibly go wrong with a product like this? Okay, there's nothing battery powered, there's nothing electrical, nothing like that. At £13, it's selling 408 units in the last month and has made £5,700 in sales. Okay, we don't know what their profit is, but we do know what their sales are, which is why having these sorts of tools is so useful, because then we actually get an understanding what product is selling, which one is not, and how much are they selling. Okay. This, in my personal opinion, is far more useful than the best sellers and the movers and shakers that we've spoken about earlier. However, that isn't the only way, okay? There is one more way. So, well, actually 2 more. The next way I want to show you is actually just by going onto Google and just by putting in random word generator, and then actually just finding out what kind of products that, you know, when you type into the search bar, leg, and then put in space, what kind of products will come out. So, for example, if we put in leg here. So leg, space. As you can see here, we have leg warmers, leg pillow, leg massager, leg weights for women, leg lifter, and so on and so forth. All of these may potentially be ideas for you to look into further. Again, just if your mind is completely blank and you have exhausted absolutely everything you can think of, just random word generator, random unlike, and then let's see if there is anything like that. That's a very interesting word, but let's have a look. Unlike laser hair removal, unlike hair removal, unlike a boss, unlike Pluto humans. Okay, maybe not make much sense. Another one, temporary. There's a good one. So we can put in temporary, and we'll have temporary tattoos. There's a shout potentially. Tooth filling, probably not. Temporary tattoos for kids, temporary blinds for windows, temporary wardrobe, temporary downpipe, and so on. And this is actually ranked by which keywords are being used the most. So temporary tooth filling is actually the most searched term out of everything that starts with temporary. So another way to potentially just generate some ideas. None of this is research, it's just idea generation. And the very last way that I could potentially tell you, and this is the one that I actually use quite frequently, is actually looking at other people's listings and then actually going onto their storefront. So if you go onto soldbyalliance.co.uk for this one, and we'll actually click on their storefront, we will actually see all of the products that this particular seller is selling. And what I like about this particular seller is that if we're looking for small, light, cheap, simple products that are not battery powered, that are not electrical, that don't have variations, they may have exactly the same ideas as also us already. And therefore we are skipping all of the product research process by looking at what they have to sell and therefore working smarter, not harder. And as you can see here, washing line rope meets our criteria. Stainless steel shower hose meets our criteria. LED torch, maybe not. Shower head, again, meets our criteria. All of these products are simple, light, cheap, and if you go all the way down, there are 9 pages of it. So this seller clearly knows what he's doing. His first images here are very, very nice. His titles are very nice and straight to the point. He is selling a lot of units on all of these products. So clearly, he knows exactly what products are selling, and we may want to just look into those ideas ourselves and see if we can sell them too. All right, so now that we've done our product idea generation and we probably have 20, 30, 40 product ideas to look into, we now have to do the research part, the difficult part. That first part is very easy and it's very straightforward, and it shouldn't take you that long to actually find the criteria for it and find the right products for it. But now we need to find out whether or not these products actually do have the demand, and whether or not we can actually bring out a product that we can stand out from the rest of the competition, appear on the first page, and actually sell ourselves, okay? Because it's all well and good finding all of these products and just picking one out of a random hat, essentially. But if it doesn't have the necessary demand and nobody is interested in it, then there is a problem, okay? So, for example, we have here one of the products that we actually looked into earlier, and that is a shower head, okay? That is one just product that I picked just for this example here. The very first thing what I would do is I would actually look at the actual category and the niche itself. Does it fit my criteria? Is it pretty straightforward, simple? Can I potentially see many wrong things that can go wrong with it? Because remember, guys, we are buying products from China here, okay? They are not known for their superb quality materials and so on. So therefore, anything we can do to avoid as many of negative reviews as possible is actually going to be a good idea. So I personally, when I'm just starting out, would never recommend you guys to look into, cameras or electronical products or anything battery related or anything with chemicals or anything like that, because that just brings in more complexity to the business and therefore more ways of potentially things going wrong. Another thing that I would have potentially get you to avoid is actually anything that comes in variations. So, for example, clothing, okay? If there are many, many different colors of a potential t-shirt or gloves or anything like that, again, you are no longer selling one product, you are selling a variation of each one. So it's kind of like bringing in 4 or 5 products all at once. I'm looking for making it as simple as possible in the very beginning. The truth is, a lot of you guys watching this video may have never sold online before, and bringing complexity in the very beginning does not necessarily mean to leading into more profit. That may potentially lead into more profit later down the line, but in the very beginning, you want to keep things as simple as possible. So here you go. I've got one product idea, which is very simple in my personal opinion, and that is a shower head. The very first thing I'm looking at is essentially, what is the product? Are there many different ways and are there many different variations of this product? So for example, if we were selling, I don't know, paper or toothpicks or paper cones or whatever, then there are very different ways, not many ways that you can differentiate yourself, right? All of them are exactly the same. Whereas here, there are many, many different models of shower heads that I can take advantage of. All I need to do is find a shower head that people will be happy with, that kind of stands out from the rest of the competition, that maybe have not been sold before, and then I have a very good chance of appearing on the first page. And before even doing any further research, as you can see, this product selling 1K in the last month, this one 500 units in the last month, another 500 units in the last month, 200 units in the last month, 1,000 units in the last month. If you can just get onto the first page with a product like this, for example, and sell 1,000 units, there is bound to be made a lot of profit in the meantime, okay? But that's not just enough research, okay? There is a lot more to it. So the next thing I would do is actually go on to Helium 10's another tool, which is X-Ray. And this is why I keep telling you guys to actually get Helium 10, because you need all of this data to make an educated decision. And the very first thing I will look at is the total revenue. Here, the total revenue is £963,000, meaning all of the products on your first page that you've just seen has made almost £1 million in the last 30 days, okay? Which just goes to show, like, are you saturated? Is Amazon, are you too late for Amazon FBA? And the answer is very simple, and that is no, because some of these products, guys, when I do literally sorted by revenue, this shower head here has made £193,000 in revenue in the last 30 days. And my only commentary to that is, if they can do it, why can't you? If they can stand out from the rest of the competition and appear on the first page, why can't you? Now, you may not be the top seller every single time, but you may appear on the first page and sell 5,000 units, 10,000, okay? And make that kind of money each and every single month. And think about how that would actually change your life, and how amazing it is that one product, such as simple like a shower head, can actually completely transform your business and bring you 100,000, maybe 200,000 each and every single year, just from one product if you pick it correctly, which is why this part of the process is so, so important. So total revenue, 963, anything above 100,000 is fine with me. Next, average price. I want it to be under £15. This time it's over 24, which is actually a red flag for me. However, I have looked at some of these products, and as you can see here, there's a product for 14, 9, 13, 8, and so on. So some of the models are more expensive, some of them are cheaper. If I was going to go into a category like this, I would probably look at the cheaper models first, okay? So we're going to bypass that just yet. Now, what I also want to say is, when it comes to product research, I don't want to give strict categories, strict criteria for you to look into. You have to kind of have blurry lines and sometimes bend the rules a little bit, because if you're very, very strict, you may find yourself never coming across a product that actually meets all of that criteria. So you have to actually really look at the category and say, hey, is the average price across all of these products about £24, or are there very expensive ones and very cheap ones, which is exactly the case with this, okay? Then we'll move on to average reviews. And this, a lot of gurus that have never sold on Amazon before will tell you that this indicates the competition. The reality is it doesn't, because if it did indicate the competition, then there wouldn't be any products on the first page that have got 30 reviews, 32 reviews, 37 reviews. What it indicates is essentially, on average, how old are some of these listings. That is it, okay? That is it. And the more average reviews, usually some of the listings are a lot older, because to get 3,400 reviews does take quite a long time, okay? So once we've done that, what I would do then is I would actually click on which products are selling the best, okay? And I would try and analyze them. Why are they selling so well? What's so special about them, okay? So for example, let's have a look at one of these. Now, I would not be looking to sell anything around £26 mark, £19 mark, or £19.99. So therefore, I will click on this product here, which is £9.99, very, very cheap. However, it is still selling £89,000 in revenue in the last 30 days, which in my opinion is incredible. So once we click on that, straight away we get taken to this page. And now we can see, okay, we will analyze the pictures, which I will do a little bit later. We will look as to what's so special about this product here. What's so special about the pictures, okay? Okay, they're nice. Is it the price? What is the title? Is the title any good? Is it a bit too long? Is it a bit too short? Well, look, what's so special? And number one question for me that I'm continue to ask myself is, if this is the best-selling product that I want to compete against, can I compete with them? Can I create a better title? Can I create better pictures than this guy? If I can, great. If I cannot, then that is a problem. What I would also do is look at their key features as well. Like, what are they talking about? Are they well written? Do they have a lot of keywords that people would use to find the product? And what most importantly I would look at is the ratings, okay? When I go onto the ratings, I want to see what are customers complaining about, okay? I don't care about how good a product is. What I care about is what people are not happy about, because that will give me a lot of information to potentially speak to my suppliers and making sure that I avoid these types of negative feedback, these types of products, because if I can improve on what's already being sold on Amazon, then I will be able to steal some of those sales. Now, you may not steal all of those sales, but even if you take off 10% of his, if he's making over 100,000 each and every single month, that's over £10,000 a month in sales, just because you were able to improve on what's currently on the market. Okay, keep that in mind. So I would look through all of these negative reviews and try to summarize as much as possible all of the negatives about this product to make sure it doesn't happen to me. And then once that's happened, okay, what I would look as to, if I feel comfortable, if I feel like I'm knowledgeable around this niche. And there's another thing as well, always go into a category that you understand, okay, that you have some sort of experience in potentially. You want to ideally be a customer of that category. So for me personally, I probably wouldn't go far into like makeup brushes or something like that, because it's something that I would never buy. I don't understand the customer. I don't know what they're looking for. And therefore selling a product like that may be a little bit more difficult for me. So I would look into like home and kitchen, sports and outdoors, bathroom or something like that, where I have some sort of a knowledge of at least a little bit, and I can see what a good product looks like and what a bad one looks like, okay? So then once I've done that, the next thing I would look into is shower heads. But now I would actually look into the US market. And the reason why I would do that is because I want to see what kind of models are selling in the US that may not even be on sale in the UK or Germany or France or Italy. And then what I would do is I would take note on some of those products and potentially start speaking to my suppliers. Hey, can I bring in a shower head like this to my marketplace? So for example, I did not see in the UK a shower head like this with this sort of design, but maybe this one is a bit too expensive for me. Okay, so we'll keep on going down. There's another one as well. I did not see a shower head like this sort of design. Okay, I have not seen this one either. So as you can see, there are many, many variations for you to potentially choose from that are currently not being for sale in your home marketplace. There's another one that I didn't see. There's another one. Okay, some of them you will have seen before. Here's another one, very, very simple, but this one has been upgraded because it's got different lights to it. There's got lights attached to it. So there, I would actually speak to the supplier and say, hey, how good are the lights? Like, how are they powered and so on? Because this brings electrical components into the product, and therefore I don't know if I want to sell it or not. Okay. Now, if all of these things are a little bit complicated for you and you do have the budget, then you may want to join my course and mentorship as well, so we can actually go through these products into detail ourselves, so I can make sure that you don't make any sort of silly, stupid mistakes that new sellers would tend to make. So keep that in mind, guys, as you're watching through this video. If you're serious about it and you want to do it properly, you may want to employ a little bit of extra help as well. And as you can see, there are many, many products along here that I could potentially look into further. So we have found the idea, number one. Number two, we have analyzed the idea. And number three, we also looked into other marketplaces and what kind of products are selling there that we can potentially bring into the UK marketplace. But because chances are that they're selling well in the US and they've got good reviews and so on, why wouldn't it sell well in the UK either, right? And then last but not least, we will look at Google Trends. Now, Google Trends is really, really important, because sometimes what will happen is we will buy a product that we may think is not trendy at all, but it actually has a trend in demand. So certain times of the year it will do really well, and certain times of the year it will not do well. And you may be thinking, well, a lot of it is common sense, but just be careful, because sometimes it may not be common sense like you think. So what I will do is here, I will put in shower heads, and let's just have a look if it's trendy. Most likely it's not, but we can never be sure. We'll do UK and we'll do over the last 5 years. And as you can see here, there is no obvious trend line whatsoever. So the revenue that we saw just now is probably going to continue into the future as well. So the 900,000 that we saw earlier will be the same going forward. However, if let's say, for example, we did sunglasses, you will see that it is clearly a trendy product with demand for it going at the highest around summertime for obvious reasons. We can do another one. We can do camping, okay? Another trendy product. Now, that doesn't necessarily say that trendy products are bad. However, you have to be aware on the trends. So, for example, camping niche would actually be a decent shout for us to look into further, because if it takes about 6 to 8 weeks for the product to come in from China. By the time it comes in, it will be already March, April, May, and we will actually be riding the wave up of the demand. And then when it falls off, instead of ordering 500 units, we may order 100 units or something like that, okay? Let me give you another one. Let's have a look at, for example, there's one. Toys. Overall, believe it or not, it is also a trendy category. So I, for example, right now would not be looking into toys because it is, as of the recording right now, it is January. We just had this peak. So why on earth would I be looking into toys when demand for these products is not that high? I would probably look into toys around August, September time. So that's when the revenue starts to increase for those products. Now, I would never move away from these trendy products at all. However, there are certain trendy products where I would never ever look into. And let me give you an example. Let me give you jumpers. These are extremes, okay? And the reason why I would never go for products like this is because the risk is just too high. Because if I, for example, buy a Christmas jumper and for one reason or another there has been a delay or these products do not come in on time, then I would not make any money at all and they would just be collecting dust for 10 months out of the year, probably 11 months out of the year. And even though we can predict the demand being super high around December time, if anything goes wrong, we are bound to make a lot of losses in the process. So me personally, I would stay away of any sort of occasional based trendy products. So whether it's Halloween costumes, whether it's Christmas jumpers, whether it's something to do with maybe potentially with Easter or bunny or something like that, I would probably stay away from them. And that's it, guys. That is all to do with product idea generation, product research, product analysis, and obviously looking into trends too. With that being said, now we have to start thinking about how we're going to source these products from China and bring them over to our marketplace. All right, so now that we've set up the business, we have our professional Amazon seller accounts, and we have come across a product that we want to ship from China into our marketplace. The next thing I want to talk about is everything to do with shipping into selling on Amazon. And the first question we have to ask ourselves, are we going to ship from China into our own warehouse, our own home first, and then ship those products to Amazon? Or are we going to bypass the process and actually ship from China straight into the Amazon marketplace? Now, for this example, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do through the additional step of shipping to ourselves first and then shipping to Amazon. However, if you're just going directly to Amazon, it will still all make sense for you. If you're going to sell, for example, in the UK and you're based in Europe, then obviously you're going to have to ship directly to Amazon. So just bear with me. There's going to be a lot of information here, but I'm pretty sure it will all make sense by the end of it. So first things first, once we have found the product that we want to sell, we go on to Alibaba.com and we have to now start speaking to our suppliers, actually getting prices and figuring out what product we're actually going to buy and whether or not it's going to make sense. Because it's all well and good finding a great product that shows a lot of potential. The reality is, if we can't get a good price from China and there is no profit to be made, what's the point of making sales just for the sake of selling? We actually have to make a legitimate profit from it. So the first thing we need to do is filter just a couple of things to make sure that we are speaking to the right people, that we're not speaking to time wasters. They're just going to literally waste our time. And also, before I go into any further, when you're speaking to suppliers, you have to make sure you're speaking to at least 20 to 40 suppliers. Most of my students, when they're just starting out and I ask them, how many suppliers have you actually spoken to? They're like 3, 5, and that is just a lazy way to go about it. The reality is, the more people you speak to, the more of an idea you'll actually get as to what the product should be costing. And because you'll get a much better idea of how much it should cost, it will put you in the position of power of negotiation, which I will also go into detail a little bit further. So first things first, trade assurance. This means that all of the sellers here right now have accepted the responsibility and the protection that comes with Alibaba. So if anything goes wrong, you speak directly to Alibaba customer service and they will be able to help you potentially get a refund, okay? The next thing I want to do is also get a verified supplier here as well, which basically means that Alibaba have done additional checks and balances to make sure that that supplier is legitimate, it exists, it actually provides products and so on, okay? So it's not just somebody in a small office doing nothing, right? And then I will leave it there. Now you may be thinking, why am I not putting in a less than 1 hour response time? The reality is that particular thing doesn't matter at all, because what they will have is they will have AI chatbots or anything like that, and they will just send an automated message the second you message them, which improves their response time, but doesn't necessarily mean that they are actually a better supplier, okay? And then the last thing what I would do is also go above 4.5 stars and up in terms of store reviews, okay? Because we want to be speaking with sellers who essentially have sold for quite some time and got good reviews, custom good reviews going forward, okay? So now that we've done that out of the way, we can start looking for suppliers here. And let's say, for example, here, first one, verified, 13 years of experience, which is very, very good, and 4.9 stars out of 5, only 9 reviews. Okay, that's not too bad, so we may potentially want to speak to them. What I also want to make sure to highlight is for you not to ever care about the price that it says here. That price, guys, is completely meaningless because the price that you're going to get here based in the UK will be very different if you're based in Germany or America or Australia and so on. So completely ignore this price here. You will actually have to speak to the supplier and actually ask them, hey, what is the price if you're going to ship these products to my home place? And then they will give you an idea. And as you can see here, there are many, many different shower heads, which some of them which we've seen, some of them which we haven't seen, that we may potentially look into further. And like I said earlier, we want to speak to 20 to 30 to 40 suppliers. The more, the better. In the very beginning, it's going to be very difficult and it may come across very overwhelming. But later down the line, once you start putting it onto a spreadsheet, or if you potentially go into my course, I will actually show you how to navigate through this process effectively. You really will start to narrow down these suppliers quite a lot actually. Because I'll give you an example. Let's say we reach out to 40 suppliers. 20 of them, for one reason or another, will not respond to you for one reason or another. 10 of them will give you terrible prices that will never ever make any sense, and they may actually even be more expensive than it is on Amazon to sell. Then out of those 10, 5 of them will have terrible English and will make it really difficult for you to have a chat with them, build a relationship and so on, and you could never see yourself working with them. So from 40, all of a sudden you bend down to your best 5 suppliers who can speak English, who actually can sell you, have got a decent price, and now you have filtered it down. If you start with 5 suppliers, you will be very, very small on choice. And that is kind of what these guys are actually hoping that you do, because then their competition is lower. What you want to do is be in the position of power and speak to as many of these guys as possible. So don't be lazy about it. So once that's done, what do we do then is actually contact supplier one by one and actually go onto this page here. Like for example here right now, and we have to put in a very, very simple outlining initial message. And when you are speaking to somebody from across the world who don't speak English, it's not their first language, you have to keep things as simple as possible. Do not use any technical jargon. Don't try to show off how clever or smart you are. You want to keep it as simple as possible, okay? So here's an example. Hello, could you please answer the following? That's it. No, we are this, we are that, we are a big company, we want to buy your products, etc., is straight to the point. This is what they will respect as actually getting down to business immediately, okay? No wasting time. The first one is, what is the product price per unit? We're looking to order 1,000 units, okay? Now, you may be not looking to order 1,000 units, but this is just to get them interested, number one. And number two is actually to make sure that you get a decent price, because the price if you order 100 units will be much higher than if it was 1,000 units. What you want to do is say that you're ordering 1,000 and then negotiate later down the line. Once you've got them invested, once you've built that relationship, and say, hey, I'm not going to actually order 1,000 units because of the price. Let me order 300 units just as a sample. And if it sells really well, then I can order the other 700 or another 1,000 later down the line. That's how it goes, okay? Then what is the lead time? Lead time is very simple. So how much will it take for me to purchase a product from the day of purchase for the product to actually be sent out? Now, sometimes the products will be readily available and we can send out within a couple of days. Sometimes they will actually just start the production and then it will take another 25 days for that product to be sent out. So if 2 products are exactly the same price, but one can be sent out immediately and one can be sent out later, of course you want to go for the product that can be sent out immediately. Matter of fact, I'll go as far as saying, even if it's slightly more expensive, you want to go for the product that is immediately available as well. So make sure to always ask that question because it's super important. If you don't, and you end up paying, then they'll say, yeah, after you've paid, okay, now you have to wait 30 days for the product to actually be sent out. And then you just do nothing and you just wait, doing nothing, right? So once that's done, the next question I would say is, what is the shipping price to the UK? Notice how I'm not giving them my address. I'm not telling what I'm doing or anything like that. I'm not even telling them what city, or I'm just want to get an approximate price as to what the shipping price is going to be to the UK. And we'll speak about shipping in terms of air versus sea very, very quickly, okay? And please provide any specifications for this product. So I just want to compare this particular shower head to other shower heads, like the spray modes, what is it made out of, what comes with it, and so on and so forth. So basically give me as much information as possible around that. And that is it, guys. What I'll say is I'll look forward to your response. Thanks, Ben. Now, if I wrote an essay about my business and send them 10 questions and so on, most of the time the response rate is actually going to be a lot lower because they get inquiries all the time and they want to keep it as simple and as straightforward as possible. I have spoken to some of these suppliers. I have built a relationship with them for years and they say, hey, usually what we prefer is just simplicity, straightforward down to business, as opposed to reading an essay from each and every single inquiry. We just don't have time for that because we have targets to be met. Okay, so now that we messaged 20, 40 suppliers, the next thing we need to talk about is negotiation tactics. Now, this is a bonus guide that I provide to all of the people that will join my mentorship or my course and so on. However, given that you have made this so far to the tutorial, I thought I might as well share this with you as well. This is just one of the 11 guides that I do provide as part of my course, essentially. So, first things first, do your research. Before entering into negotiations, you have to do your research around it. You have to do the product research, but you also have to speak about the supplier's background and the reputation as well. Knowledge is power in negotiations. So like I said earlier, you want to make sure that you've done the research. Where is the supplier? Where do they exist? Where in the country are they based and so on? You want to understand as much about them as possible. Now, the chance of you getting scammed is very, very little. However, it is still important for you to do your research, as with anybody that you will be working potentially for the years ahead. Request multiple quotes. Just like I said earlier, you have to at least speak to minimum of 40 suppliers here. Build a relationship. Once you have initially got a price and you have narrowed it down to your best 3 to 5, then you want to start building a positive relationship, not just on the very first order, but also building a relationship over the next few months, years. Matter of fact, believe it or not, some of my suppliers actually volunteered and asked, hey, can we come over to the UK and meet you in person? It would be really good to actually meet the person that we have been working with for the last 2 years. So this sort of relationship is very, very important because it will give you favorable terms in many different ways. So for example, if they have a line of customers to actually send out the products to, if they prefer you over other people, they will actually put you ahead of schedule and make sure that your products get sent out first. Remember, these sorts of relationships do go a long way going forward, okay? Negotiate on price, starting with a lower offer than you're willing to pay. So let's say I'm willing to pay $3 for that shower head. I would always start with 2 and hopefully meet in the middle. I would never just say, hey, what is your best price? What is your best price, etc., etc., okay? And also, don't be scared to negotiate because like it says here, Chinese culture is to haggle, is to negotiate. They are expecting you to. Matter of fact, I'll go as far as say that you make me think you're a sucker if you don't negotiate. So make sure to, don't see it as disrespectful. This is just their way of doing business. It's essentially as that, okay? Leverage bulk orders as well, making sure that you actually sometimes, if an order is actually massive, if you know you're going to be selling it, it's your 3rd, 4th, 5th order, you may want to order more, especially if you have your own warehouse, and actually leverage that to get best possible price for that product, because the more you order, usually it's the best, you will get much better price on that as well. Then discuss payment terms. This is really important as well. Now, negotiating payment terms is really important for both parties because if I say to you, hey, I want you to send out the products in the next 10 days and I'm willing to pay you all in full right now, it will give you a much more of a powerful stance for them to do so, okay? If I say, hey, I'm going to pay you 30% right now and then I'll pay you the 70% once the product is ready to be sent out, then there is much less money on the line from a supplier's perspective and they may push you much further down the line. So what you may want to do is say, hey, I will pay you all the money up front on the condition that you will send the products by this date, okay? See how powerful it can be, because all time is money, guys, and the quicker you can get these products sent out, the better. Then we have quality assurance, sample orders, shipping Incoterms, minimum order quantity, lead time, quality control, communicate clearly, be patient, cultural sensitivity, consider long-term relationships, and so on. As you can see, there is quite a lot to do, and I don't want to go into detail on each and every single one to make this tutorial even longer. But as you can see, it is really, really important to make sure that you negotiate this properly, okay? Now, once that is done, now let's talk about the difference in shipping. If you've never shipped before from anywhere around the world, internationally, there are two types of shipping. There is either air or there is either C, okay? And this is the best sort of visual that I could find to differentiate between the two, okay? It's really simple. The way I see it is that if the product overall cargo is under 100 kilograms, then I will use air shipping, which is much quicker and much more straightforward. If it's much larger, over 100 kilos, then I will have to use sea. And let me just show you. So in terms of cost, air shipping for kilo is more expensive than sea shipping. In terms of speed, faster transit time with less lead time. So air shipping can take anything between 1 to 2 weeks for the product to arrive, whereas ocean freight will actually take longer with variable lead time. So the ships don't come out every single day like with airplanes. Schedules, frequent schedules, precise arrivals, whereas with ocean freight, there can potentially be delays. Now, during COVID, this was actually really, really bad, and sometimes it was very, very long, and there were delays of weeks potentially for ocean freight. Fees, flat $20 fee to actually get the shipping started. Obviously, that doesn't mean it's the actual cost of it, it's just a fee, including line item charges like handling fees, terminal fees, drainage, and so on. So when it comes to air freight, the fee structure is much more straightforward than it is with ocean freight. Size limited, like I said, under 100 kilos, whereas with ocean freight, it can accommodate much larger cargo. So if you think of any big company that ships products from overseas, 99% of the time, including myself, I would be shipping via sea because it is cheaper and I can bring a whole lot more in. If I'm very, very stressed out and I want to make sure that my products do not go out of stock, I may ship some of them via air to get them in as quickly as possible, but I will have to sacrifice a portion of my profit because it is going to be more expensive. Then weight, expensive for heavy items, obviously suitable for heavier cargo. Handling, minimal, very straightforward. Can be considerable, requires careful packaging because obviously you're handling much larger items and objects. And hazardous materials, significant restrictions, whereas ocean freight is actually possible with proper labeling and handling. So there are certain products that you won't be able to airship, not because of how big they are or whatever, you just won't be able to airship them because they're restricted. You just can't airship them. So sometimes even a small light product you will have to sea ship because it's impossible to do via air, okay? And then last but not least, if you decide to go via sea, which you will at one point, you always have to think about the terms of agreement when speaking to the supplier. And I will show you the two extremes, the EXW and the DDP. And it's really, really simple here. Seller's obligation on EXW is pretty much nothing. That basically means that once the seller has created the product, you will have to get it arranged to be picked up from the factory and delivered to your warehouse. You are responsible for the whole shipping process. And this is where usually you will get a freight forwarder like Dayguard, Bronell, Westbound Logistics, just to name a few, to actually arrange that part of the process. The good thing is it tends to be cheaper. The bad thing is that you are, getting additional party involved in the process and bringing a little bit of complexity into the business, which is why I say in the very beginning, you should go for DDP, because that means that once you pay for the price, you pay for the product and the shipping, it is their responsibility to get the product shipped to your door, okay? They have to pay for absolutely everything. If there are any overpayments, fees, duties, tariffs, taxes, whatever, it is the seller's obligation to get that covered via DDP. So it is a bit more expensive because you're paying all of the money up front and they may add some of their own fees and profit margins on top of that, but it is much, much more straightforward. And like I said earlier, just like with product research, keeping it simple means a lot in the very beginning, and DDP is actually keeping it simple when it comes to shipping. Once you understand the process and you have bought it and you have went from start to finish and you now understand how it all works, then you can go into EXW to save more money and add just a little bit more complexity to the process. All right, so now that we've found the product that we want to sell, we have found the supplier, we have paid the supplier, and the supplier is bringing the products over from China into our marketplace. The next thing we need to do is obviously create a listing. This is essentially our storefront for our product. This is what we're going to do to show how amazing our product is and why you, the buyer, should be buying from us as opposed to other people, right? And other customers and other potential sellers, right? So what we want to do is we want to go through the process of actually creating our very first product listing. Now, I will go into detail, obviously, about the images a little bit down the line, but what I want to show here is actually how to go through the process of creating your very first listing. So here we are at my manage inventory. This is essentially my database of all of our products. This is, as you can see here right now, we are sitting at £655 in sales so far today, and hopefully by the end of today, it'll be a little bit more. However, yours is going to be very different in the very beginning. However, some of the products will actually be quite the same. What you want to do now is click onto here, click onto catalog, and then add products. Once you clicked onto add products, the next thing you want to do is I'm adding a product not sold on Amazon. Once you click on Amazon, I'm adding a product not sold on Amazon. Doesn't matter if the product is already on for sale on Amazon. You actually still have to click on here, because if you don't and you click on here, then you will actually jump onto somebody else's listing, which you don't want to do. The whole beauty of private label on selling on Amazon is essentially you create your own listing that you have full control over. Okay, so once that's done, you will get taken to this page right here. Now, I already populated it already with the shower head because that is the example that we use. But this is the very first thing that we have to put in, okay? And you can say here, item name, you will put in whatever your item name is, and then you will have to choose the product type, the category for that product. This is super, super important to get it right, because if you choose the wrong category, your search visibility will be impaired. It will actually get a lot worse, and you don't want that to happen. So you want to make sure that this is selected correctly so you show up on the correct pages. And to double check whether or not it's correct or not, because sometimes there may be one or two that could be applicable, you just want to go on some of your competitors' listings and see what category are they under, okay? And this is going to be the browse node as well, which obviously gets locked in once you have created the listing. Then we have to select whether or not the product will come in variations. Like I said earlier, please don't go for variations. I don't always tell my students not to go for it, so therefore go on to no. Brand name. Now, if you have your own registered trademark from the very beginning, you will have to put in your trademark here. If you don't, you will click on this. This product does not have a brand name over here, and it will say generic, and it will actually lock that in, okay? And then last but not least, and also just on the trademark part as well, once you have started selling, I would strongly advise you guys to get a trademark, because then you will protect your own listing and make sure that nobody else jumps onto your listing. All of the hard work, the reviews, the images that you've done, you don't want somebody else jumping onto that and start selling exactly the same product that you are selling, okay? So you want to get a trademark hopefully as soon as possible, because once that's done, you have that peace of mind going forward. And then last but not least, you have to put in the external product ID. Now here we would select UPC, EAN, and JITIN. And then the way to get this product ID, guys, is very, very simple. You have to go onto a website called GS1 UK. In the US, it will be GS1 US. It will be in Australia, it will be GS1 AU, I believe, and so on. And this is what basically people and companies use to get legitimate barcodes that basically are belonging to your company. And if anybody checks on that barcode, it will say, hey, this belongs to your company. Now, this isn't just used across Amazon. It is actually used across the likes of eBay, Google, Shopify, Tesco's, NHS, Waitrose, Facebook, and so on. So it's not just based on Amazon, okay? And the beautiful thing about it is that even if you are selling, let's say, a yoga mat, and there are 50 exactly the same yoga mats, identical, this the barcode that makes them different, okay? It is that code, that unique code that will connect that product to your account and your company. So getting these barcodes is very, very important. So what we do is we're going to click on view plan, okay? And in the very beginning, I'll be honest with you guys, I would always go for start at 10. And the reason why is because you're just starting out. You don't need 1,000 or 100 or something like that. I myself am now selling over 80 products, and I got after 10, after a year or so, okay? Now, what's important here to understand is that even if you are selling 1,000 units of, let's say, one shower head, that doesn't mean you need 1,000. You need one barcode. So it is one barcode for every product that you are selling. How many units you are selling does not matter. It's the product per barcode, okay? So unless you're trying to sell all of a sudden more than 10 individual products straight away in the very beginning, which I would never advise you to do, then you want to go for the start 100. Otherwise, the 10 is perfectly fine. Because like I said earlier, we want to reduce the amount of fees that we are paying as much as possible. And as you can see here, for the UK example, it is much, much cheaper to do so. And yeah, so once we've got that, also here, how it works as well is really important for you to know as well. Let's say, for example, we are selling 10 t-shirts at 9 different colors. Okay, so large, extra large, medium, small, and so on and so forth, 9 different colors and 4 different sizes. we would need 360 barcodes. This is precisely the reason why I always tell to students, hey, just one product, one color, one size equals one barcode. Keep things simple, okay? So once we got that done and we bought the products, we bought the barcodes, and you basically, once you get the barcodes, you will get like a PDF file with all of those barcodes. We will copy and paste one of those barcodes into here, and then that's it, okay? And then this exclamation mark will be disappearing. The next thing we need to do is fill in the description. Now, with the description, the actual description means the least, okay? Because when it comes to buying a product, most customers will look at the images first, then it will be to the title, then it will be the bullet points, and then it will be the product description. So what you can do here is describe this product, but don't put too much effort into this. It doesn't really matter too much because chances are very few of your customers will actually read it. The bullet points is where you have to focus on a lot more. So this actually goes besides the listings, those 5 bullet points. And this is where you really want to focus as much as possible, putting in as many keywords as possible that people would use to find the shower head in our example, okay? So what you can do here is put in all of these bullet points and add more if need be. And then last but not least are the images as well, which I will cover a little bit later in this video as to what makes a good listing with good images and what makes a bad listing with bad images. And make sure that is, if I can put to one thing, and that is by far the most important part of this listing, is going to be the images. The title may suck, the description may suck, the bullet points may suck, but if the images are good, you still have a chance to sell. If it's the other way around, nobody's going to be buying from you, okay? Then we go into product details. Here, model number, model name, manufacturer, I'll be honest guys, make it up. Honestly, nobody's checking. Doesn't really matter what you put in. Just make sure in the manufacturer never to actually put your actual manufacturer's name, because you don't want your competitors to then start Googling and trying to speak to your suppliers and potentially getting a better price or getting exactly the same product. So make sure to put in anything but your manufacturer, believe it or not. Then number of items, in our case, it will be 1, but if it comes with like, in the box, it comes with like a hose and a few bits and bobs, and obviously we will put in more. In item and type name, we'll just put in shower head. What color is it? Okay. And I'm just looking at the ones that have got a star next to it, because once I fill all of these up, then I'm able to save and finish. I don't care about the efficiency, the installation type, and so on. Including components. So what's included in the box as well. The flow rate. Some of these may not be, applicable, but you still have to put something in. And then item lengths hinge to head. So how long is the actual item? Now you may be thinking some of these things are not important, but believe it or not, some of these will actually show up on your listing, and you want to provide the customer with as much information as possible. The last thing you want to do is have your customer confused, because if they are confused, then that means they are just going to buying from somebody else. Now, a lot of these things can be explained in the images, and I think you should. However, please make sure to put this in as correct as possible. Amazon is not going to check, and they're not going to say, hey, you lied on here, but you still want to make it correct so that the customer can make an educated decision when buying your product. Then we go into offer. You can put, let me skip the offer data and add it later on, but it's very easy for you to do so straight away. The very first thing I would do is actually select Amazon will dispatch and provide customer service, which basically means we will send the products to Amazon's warehouse. And only when it reaches the Amazon's warehouse will the listing go live. And once you have done that, the quantity for the product actually goes away completely. The next thing here, I would put in, let's say $9.99. Now, don't worry about what price you select. This can be amended and edited later down the line, so don't worry about that. And then in the offer condition time, you will always put in new. We are only selling new items, not used. This is not eBay. This is not nothing else. It's not Facebook Marketplace. These are brand new items that we are selling. And then here we go into the package width, height, and length. Now, does it really matter to be 100% correct? No. And the reason why is because they will be measured and weighed, as you can see here, once those products reach Amazon's warehouse. So it doesn't really matter too much if you put in 5 inches or 6 inches or 7 inches, whatever. As long as it's somewhat accurate, that's all you need to really care about. And last but not least, safety and compliance. You want to say what country this product is from. Don't lie. If it's from China, say it's from China. What batteries are they included? If there is, yes. If it is, no. And then any dangerous good regulation, for the most part, it will be not applicable, okay? If you put something else in, then you will have to most likely fill in some sort of additional sheet in order to make sure that you are able to submit your product. And once that's it, that's it. You have submitted. Now, usually we'll come up with a page saying, hey, you have to wait around 15 to 20 minutes for that listing to appear. And once it appears, it won't be active straight away. What it will say is that it is search suppressed. And the reason why is because it will only become active once the products that you have bought from China have actually reached the Amazon's warehouse. Okay, once they have been checked into the Amazon's warehouse, that's when the activity will actually change from search suppressed or whatever, anything else, or inactive out of stock to actually being active and ready for sale. So now that we have created our listing, the next thing we need to talk about is the most important part of the listing, which is why I wanted to put a separate segment to it, because it is all about the images. The reality is, guys, customers cannot go to the shop and touch and feel and smell and potentially speak to the customer staff to see whether or not this is a product that is right for them. With Amazon and with any online shop, all they have is 6, 7 or 10 or whatever images that they can look into. They check the price, they check what you have said about it, and then they have to make a purchasing decision. Okay, so it's kind of good and bad at the same time. It's good because there is not much for you to edit and do, but it's bad because it is very, very competitive, and it is extra attention has to be paid into the images, what we naturally actually gravitate to when it comes to making a purchasing decision. All of us, without any exception, the very first thing that we look at when actually clicking onto the listing straight away is the images, as opposed to the title, the key features, and so on, which is why I always tell my students, when it comes to the images, you cannot shortcut this part of the process. You cannot get your suppliers to, provide those images to you. You will actually go through the hassle of either creating the images yourself or actually hiring somebody or from Fiverr or Upwork to actually do those images properly for you. Because if you don't, then no matter how good your product is, if the images suck, then nobody's going to even be clicking onto your listing, let alone buying the product. Okay, so in order to explain what a good listing from a bad listing looks like, I just wanted to show you 2 listings and kind of give you my thoughts as to why I think one is good and one is bad. And I think some of this will actually be common sense, but I think it's important for you to notice and see for yourself how important it is. And the scary thing, but also a good thing at the same time, is the fact that there are so many bad listings like this one here on Amazon, which basically means that there is a lot of opportunity for us, because if we can find something that is really, really good and actually create a great looking listing, then we can really sell extraordinarily well going forward. Okay, so here, for example, as you can see here, the very first way, let's actually look at the title first. Very, very short, very simple, no keywords used in order to find this particular product besides the fact that it's a plush dog toy. That's it. Terrible in my opinion. You can definitely do much more with that. Then no reviews whatsoever. Customers who are buying this product have no idea what other customers have actually said about it, so therefore it will continue to basically detract any sort of customers that would potentially be interested in buying this product. Then the price, $24.64. It is such an odd number that would actually be discouraging for me to buy the product even further. And then after that, once we go into the key features, the 5 key features that you would have to use to describe and sell the product as much as possible, this potential seller just didn't care for it at all and just put in a few keywords just to have something about the item, and that's it. And the sad truth is that once you do a little bit of research, you will actually find a lot of products that have got this sort of terrible listings underneath them, which is why they find themselves not selling. And if some of my students would have a listing like this, straight away I would be like, right, this needs to change immediately. It may not be a bad product that you have got, it's that just actually you've put in not enough effort into this listing. Okay, now look at the actual images themselves, and it actually highlights why this potential seller just doesn't really care about this product or doesn't want to sell for one reason or another. The very first image itself doesn't actually explain to me what the product is. It doesn't sell the product. There is a lot of white space around it, and it is actually quite blurry, so it's actually quite low quality as well. I don't know whether this product is 50 centimeters, 5 centimeters or whatever. There is no indication what I'm actually going to be buying. And for a price of £24, it's actually very expensive to buy something that you have no idea what you're going to get. Then the second image, it's exactly the same, but backwards. And this one is so low quality that, matter of fact, is you can't even zoom in as to what you're getting. Apparently, I'm getting a rope and a tennis ball as well. I have no idea what the rope looks like. I have no idea what the image looks like. And I'm looking here from a laptop. So imagine how hard it is to read if my customer is actually looking at it from a phone screen, which 30% of all our customers will be coming from using a mobile phone. So this is impossible for me to look into further, and there's not that much to analyze. It's just terrible. Then again, another terrible listing here, terrible one where I can't zoom in on this image as well either. I can just see the back of it, but once again, I don't actually know what am I supposed to do. There is no comparison images, there's no graphics, there's nothing. It's just literally a photograph backwards and forwards, and that's it. And last but not least, you got tennis ball rope inside. Again, no idea what it actually means. Like, is it inside the toy? How am I supposed to take it out? Like, it makes me confused. And like I said earlier, if the customer is confused, he's not going to buy, he's just going to move on to somebody else. It's just that simple. So going forward now, what I would do is I would actually look into the next product, which is actually a good listing, and you will actually see immediately what the difference is. And here's the difference, okay? Straight away, it just stands out so much more. But before going into the images, let's have a look at the title. Beautiful actually has a few keywords that people would use to find the product. Crinkle paper for large dogs, dog chew toy, play toy, no stuffing octopus, etc. There is actually keywords that people would use. The reviews, they actually do have some. They actually have 2,000 reviews on them. And no wonder it's Amazon's choice for toys for large dogs. Great. And as a result, without doing any research, you can see that there's been 500 units sold in the last month alone. Unlike the previous price, which was £24, here, the price is £7.59, a reasonable price for a reasonable product that I can actually understand what I'm getting. What do you know? Then look at the key features. Like I said earlier, it doesn't get read that much, but for people that do tend to read about what they're getting in terms of the text, you can actually see it is informative. It actually has a size, actually has, various keywords that people would use to find the product, like dog toys, plush dog chew toy, and so on. So the more keywords you stuff into key features like this, the more different ways your product will actually show up on the search terms on the pages, and therefore you will get your listing shown to more and more people. This is so important, whereas this seller just completely neglected that part, and no wonder there is nobody buying, nobody's even interested in a product like this. But let's go back onto this product here. Let's look at the actual images themselves. The first one, look how beautiful it is. It captures my attention because it has not just the product itself, but it actually shows that the legs, octopus legs, actually spread out. And also it gives me an idea of how big this product is because it has a dog with it next to it. Okay, so we understand how big this dog is and gives us an idea of how big that particular product would be as well. Then we move on to here as well. The second image actually explains that it can come in 3 different colors and variations, and the actual measurements of the item. Now, I think the font here could be a little bit different, but it is miles better than what the other seller had, which was nothing. Then we have another image here. Again, not much text, no need to worry about ripping off or chewing or swallowing or choking on. And again, you can see a dog with the actual product. And I'm pretty sure this seller, what he did was he actually looked at the reviews, seen that products like these easily get ripped off, easily get choked on or potentially swallowed or whatever, and made sure to address it in the image. So if it's something that you're worried about, then you're much more likely to buy a product like this because it has been already addressed, and I'm pretty sure they have taken care of that problem. Okay. Then here, another beautiful image with squeaky and crinkle dog toys. So you got squeaker in the head, which is nicely shown here, and then you got crinkle paper sound in the tails as well. Now, what I love about here is the fact that if you haven't read the key features, it will actually demonstrate that in the actual image itself. The only thing I'd say is I probably would change the font and the color of the text because white on white doesn't look that good. And also it's actually quite small, so I can't actually read it without zooming in. And if I'm looking at it on the phone, it's actually even harder to read, but still much better than before. Then we have here, so here we actually have some lifestyle images. Okay, pets need toys, and if our pet, for example, is suffering from loneliness or bites a soap for overweight or whatever, then this is a product, this is a toy for them. Okay, it just gives us an idea of whether or not this toy is actually exactly what we are looking for. And it's really important to do these sort of images because then it gets customers to visualize what they're actually buying, and it's super important. And then last but not least, we have another lifestyle image here of the dog. If you have a dog like this, you will see them happy, just like a dog here. And he gets us once again just to visualize what that product looks like, the size of it, and whether or not our dog is going to be happy using it. None of any of these things were mentioned with a product like this. And I don't think it requires an expert for us to figure out that, hey, the other listing is going to get far more sales than this. Even though maybe, who knows, if we bought both of these products and we actually analyze them ourselves, it might be the case that this product is actually better than this one. But this one is being sold far more, far better, far more superior, which is why it's making so many more sales than the previous one. So now that we've pretty much done everything, the last thing that we have to do essentially is make sure that our products reach Amazon's warehouse correctly, okay? Now, we have done the listing, we have found the product, we've done the research, but we have to make sure that the products actually reach Amazon's warehouse where they will actually be sold from. And this is super, super important, and it's such an important part of this video, because if you don't do it right, some of the products may go missing, they may go lost, and getting a refund on them is actually going to be really difficult because it is your fault if you don't do it properly. So make sure to pay very, very close attention to what I'm about to do next. And what's interesting is I actually have to send some of my own products right now to Amazon's warehouse. So I'm actually going to fill it in with you guys right now. And it's actually pretty simple and straightforward. So click on Manage All Inventory. And then we have to find the product that I actually want to send to the Amazon's warehouse, which, give me a second, I will actually find it immediately now. You can see I'm actually doing this live. And we will find the product and we'll actually click on to send replenish inventory. And then what we'll do is we'll have to, first of all, select what address this product is coming from. So if it's coming from my own home, it will be my home address. If it's coming from China directly into Amazon, then I would actually have to put in my Chinese supplier's address, okay? And then I'll have to click onto this button here, and I'd actually have to put in how many units per box is actually coming in. So if I have 10 boxes and each box has got 10 units in that box, I will put in 10 units. If it has 50 units in each box, I will have to put in 50 units in each box, and then the dimensions of this particular box as well, and the weight too, okay? Then what we'll do here is we'll click on, right now I only have to send in one box, so I'll just put in one box and then say ready to send. Once that's done, I confirm and continue. And then what we will do is validate, and the AI will actually start to show which address am I going to send these products to. So the next thing I need to do, once it's confirmed, I will say, hey, I'm going to send it tomorrow on the 24th. I will use UPS partner carrier, which will cost me £2.86 to send that box to Amazon. And as you can see here, it was actually the address that I'm going to be sending it to is BHX7, Unit 2, Hickley Park, Avery Way, Hickley. This was all generated automatically. No human was involved whatsoever. So what I'll do is I will actually click yes, I agree to these charges, accept the charges. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll actually get a PDF file, okay? Now that PDF file will have two versions on it. If you are, by the way, just before going any further, here what we'll do is also we'll put in the name so we remember what are we actually sending, okay? So what we'll do is we'll put in the actual name of the product and how many units we are sending, okay? And then what we'll do is we'll actually click onto here, we will select this one here, and we'll click onto print. Now, what will happen is once you click on print, you will actually get a PDF file that will actually say what you want to actually print off and what you are actually sending off, okay? Now, if the PDF file you're going to send yourself, then you just print it off and stick it onto the box. If it's actually something that your Chinese supplier has to do because you don't want to see the products, you want them sent directly to the Amazon's warehouse, you will click on print, you will get that file downloaded, and you will have to send it to your Chinese supplier. So then they have to print it off and stick on those products for you, okay? Hopefully that makes sense, but basically whoever is in possession of these products will have to print and stick on those labels on each and every single box, okay? Now, once that's done, what we'll have to do, very last bit, is we'll actually have to schedule a collection. So what we'll do is we'll schedule a collection to UPS here. You just do it through UPS. And what we'll do is we'll put in the tracking number, which will be given to us by Amazon in our shipments tab. And then we'll put in the name, where it's coming from, the address, the postcode. So for example, if it's from the UK, the postcode, the telephone number, and the address that's actually the UPS driver has to come and collect. Then what we'll do is we'll say how many packages it should become. So for example, let's say it's going to be one package for me. Personally, it will be 10 kilograms for that particular shipment. And then we will have to select the date. Given that I didn't fulfill these earlier, right now, as you can see, is shown as gray. And then what we'll do is click on next and then save and finish. And what will happen is I will stick on those barcodes, those labels onto the boxes. I will actually make sure that to schedule the collection for tomorrow. And then at some point tomorrow, the UPS driver will knock on my door and be ready to collect all of those boxes that I have prepared to be now sent to Amazon. Once that is done, you will just check on the tracking link, and within a couple of days, those products will be sent to Amazon. They will be delivered, they will be checked in, and then eventually they will be ready for Amazon to sell. So just in conclusion, we have gone through the business setups, we have gone through the product research and the analysis and the idea generation part. We've spoken about how to speak to suppliers and how to negotiate with them. Then we've spoken about how exactly to ship the products from China into your marketplace. We've then spoken about how to create your own listing and how to make sure to do the images correctly and what is a good listing from a bad listing. And then at the end, we actually now have covered the part of how to send the products from our house to the Amazon's warehouse, because we want Amazon to fulfill all of these products for us. I understand this is a lot for you guys to take in, but like I said earlier in the very start of the video, this is a massive opportunity. And if you're still watching this video until the very end, you're probably in the top 5% of all of the people that have clicked off along the way. And if you still have questions, you either have two choices. Number one, you can join on my community and course, where you would actually get a step-by-step guide in far more detail than what I've done earlier today, and covers each and every single process in this 13 hours long videos in total, okay? Whereas this tutorial is going to be much shorter. And secondly, you can join me on my live workshops each and every single week, where I will actually be able to go live and actually answer some of your questions. So if you have a question about your listing, if you have a question about your product or how to send it to Amazon, whatever, I can actually on a live answer those questions for you and hopefully help you out. That's pretty much it for today's videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.